Jonathan with JonathanStewartPhotos.com, and I just received the new Tokina Firin 20mm f2, and this lens is for full-frame Sony FE Mount. It's a totally manual lens from Tokina, and this is one of the first in their new line of lenses that they're making for the Sony A7 series of cameras. And so, how good is the lens? Well, I just got it, so this is really just going to be an initial impressions on build quality with a few basic image samples. First thing you notice when you unbox the lens, and there's really nothing special with the packaging, we don't need to show that. It does come with a fairly extensive owner's manual with kind of humorous instructions on how to use manual mode on your camera and stuff like that. But great, they're taking the time to put that out for users. So anyway, the first thing you notice is this is a pretty chunky lens at almost half a kilo. It's basically about a pound, and it is heavier than most other manual lenses that you're gonna get for the Sony FE Mount. Here we can compare it to, say, the Zeiss Loxia 35. Again, a different focal length, but just to give you an idea of the size difference. And the Voigtlander 15mm f4.5. This thing dwarfs both of those, and it's significantly heavier and chunkier feeling. Now, one thing I really do like about the lens is the focus throw. It's very smooth, and the distance is neither too long nor too short. I'd say it's just right for nailing focus, and at the 20mm focal length, that is really an easy lens to use, an easy focal length to use for manual focus, because you do have such a wide depth of field. Now, another aspect of a totally manual lens is it does have a manual aperture ring. This one is located towards the front of the lens, towards the front element. And one of the criticisms I read in one of the early reviews is that there isn't too much tactile feel with the aperture ring, and that's something that I have to disagree with. Starting at f2, it does click in 1/3 stop increments in between the marked full stop increments on the ring. So you have a pretty good idea of where you are, and you know, the feel is perfectly satisfactory. I have no problem at all with the feel of the aperture ring. This one does have the declick function, and as opposed to the Loxia lenses with Zeiss, where you have a little screw here at the bottom of the lens, this one has a small ring at the front of the lens where you just click it between click and free. You make that click, and now your aperture lens, or your aperture ring, moves very smoothly without the click noise. Fine for videographers, I guess, but I'll probably just leave it like that. One thing I did appreciate in my first little run through with this lens is that infinity is infinity. When you stop, when you move the focus ring all the way to infinity, it stops, and you really are at infinity. There might be a teeny bit of adjustment, but it does look pretty sharp at distant focus, and that's going to be really nice for those night shoots for astrophotography, where you know it might be hard to focus those low light stars. You just click it and maybe move it a teeny bit, and then you know that you're focused. One thing that I don't particularly like about this lens just right off the bat, and I'm sure that there's going to be a learning curve, is this cinema style lens hood. Now you can remove it, of course, and it does look pretty cool, but one of the problems with it is beveled slightly inwards here towards the front. So when you try to take off your lens cap, it won't come straight out. You know, the lens cap is actually too big to fit straight out through the lens hood, so you have to tilt it a little bit and slide it out like that. Again, a little bit of a learning curve. It's something that I'm sure I'll get used to, but just a slight handling problem right off the bat. And you can take the hood off, and you know, of course, your cap's gonna go on and off just fine. The cap does feel a little bit cheap. This is the one kind of cheap part of the lens, I would say. Kind of feels like those third-party Chinese-made lens caps that you get on eBay. Here is the lens as it appears mounted to the Sony A7R II. It's a fairly good balance. The lens feels as though it weighs almost as much as the camera body itself. It's definitely not a lightweight lens. It's got some chunk to it, and as we put the cinema style filter on, yeah, it's got a nice look to it. Let's take a look at some of the images taken with this lens. These are some of the very first shots I took with the thing right out of the box, so they're just going to be experimental. This is at f2, and everybody's favorite subject is their dog, right? Get new gear, first one you test it on is your dog, and then your kids, right? So, of course, I'm no different. Pretty nice level of sharpness at f2. It's not going to be, you know, out of this world or anything like that. Looks nice. Background looks reasonable too. I think that's actually a bird, not a sensor spot. I'm still at f2. We can zoom in here. Oh, I'm sorry, this is at 5.6. And look at that level of detail we're getting at 5.6 in the tongue. Oh my goodness. little bit scary. So pretty impressive sharpness at f6, 5.6. I think I missed the focus a little bit on her eyes here. Same on this. But this is a sort of example of shot you can get up close shots, not necessarily of dogs, but of people with your 20mm. For me, it's a nice sweet spot between just crazy wide distortion of say a 15 and a little bit more subdued look of say a 25 and tighter. For me, it's a really nice focal length. And of course, one of the main uses for a 20 is going to be landscapes. So here's an idea of what that would look like. And if we crop in, here's where you're going to start seeing some chromatic aberrations on a lens on these edges, like on this hill here. It looks pretty good. This is totally uncorrected, and I'm really not seeing too much chromatic aberration. This is at 5.6, so not exactly wide open. Center sharpness looks good. As we move off to the edge, you can see here how edge sharpness at 5.6 isn't quite as nice as your center sharpness. So there is some drop off there. Even stop down to 5.6. And another shot here, same thing. So it looks like they got pretty good control of chromatic aberration, but not really spectacular uniformity across the field as far as sharpness goes. There's some close-up shots. So the background blur still looks pretty nice when you're separating your subject from your background like I am here. It's really close subject and a distant background. Get an idea of what the bokeh looks like. Not too bad. A little bit busy, but still not too bad. You're not going to get spectacular bokeh out of a wide-angle lens no matter what. It's another one. And, oh yeah, here's one with the B. If we zoom in, we get an idea of the level of detail. So this is at f2. No, I'm sorry, f8. And, yeah, pretty good detail there. So some people shots, my lovely daughter. f2, zoom in. Pretty sharp, huh? Pretty sharp. For a $700 lens, look at that. Pretty sharp at f2, wide open. Get an idea, again, of the bokeh. So, like, it's a wide-angle type bokeh. It's a little bit busy, but respectable. Another shot at f2, it's pretty much the same thing. 5.6. Let's punch in and see how we're looking here. Even more detail here. Wow. This is a real nice modern look with this lens. Again, these are totally untouched photos. 5.6. Great detail. Background blur. It's looking okay. And f8, just super, super sharp. So, I think for the price, you're getting a pretty good lens here. And again, this is just a preliminary review. Right out of the box, I'd say I'm pretty pleased with the kind of images it's producing. We'll see. I'm going to take it to Mongolia. Should be able to get hundreds of pictures there and some more interesting subjects than just my garden. Not that you could get any more interesting than my kids, for me anyway. But hopefully I'll be able to do a more comprehensive review after having used the thing for a number of weeks, and stay tuned. Thanks for watching.